Hey guys, what's going on? We got another Enhancement Shaman PvP, and we are doing another shuffle once again. What a surprise. Um, so for this one, it was quite interesting. Um, I was not mentally prepared for one because the second I queued up is the second the queue popped, and it totally threw me off because I didn't even have like my recording program up yet, which threw me off completely. But anyways, things went well, and we're here now. So what are we fighting? Well, we have a Holy Paladin, a Survival Hunter, a Resto Druid, not a Shaman, Druid, Resto Druid, Devastation Evoker, and a Ret Paladin. So it's very interesting team comps that have come through. Definitely ones that you would not usually see together within the ranking ladders, but it's solo shuffle, so a bunch of random things happen. That's the fun of solo shuffle, right? But anyways, our main focus is going to be kind of on the Devastation Evoker, but we have to be careful with the Resto Druid because, as most people know, Resto Druids are very aggressive in going after CCs and stuff like that, so you have to watch for clones, you have to be careful, and there's also the Evoker who is going to be, casting and moving and doing maximum damage with one button. Now, I don't know how to play Evoker, and nor am I really looking to do it. But as you saw there, I kicked the Evoker, but the Druid got the clone off on me. It's kind of unfortunate, but that's what happens when you're not quite paying attention to the fullest. But you can see we're really focused on the Evoker, but I'm also trying to get a bit of damage on the Ret Paladin, forcing the Druid to kind of switch his hots and stuff like that because I want him to burn through mana, right? I don't think we're going to win on the mana game, so hitting more than one target is perfect. I see the blind go out on our Paladin, so I go ahead and trade wall there just to make sure he doesn't have to burn anything too crazy. The Hunter gets a nice trap on the Druid, so I follow in on the Evoker, but, I can't quite get too much because I can't, I don't have the chase potential on an Evoker like other classes do, right? So I kind of just have to hit what I can and go for what I got. So here we get a nice burst on the Evoker, but unfortunately we didn't quite get too much. We got a wall and we got sacrifice as well as a Druid using a bit of healing and stuff like that. Here our Hunter gets very low. He doesn't want to trade out Turtle because he already has Bop up on him, so he wants to be very careful. Here I'm trying to just peel a little bit, push him away, get him off, but unfortunately we weren't able to stabilize there. So the Hunter didn't get too much damage out. I don't know if he was just getting away too much or what, but I don't know. But he probably had some issue where he wasn't able to fully connect and get his damage off. But here it's me, the Evoker, and the Paladin. Our main focus is going to actually be the Ret Paladin, but like I've said before, it's a Resto Druid, so you always want to be pushing both targets to try and force out a bit more mana, because if you go for the mana game, then you're going to lose on it against a Druid if you're just hitting one target, right? So that's going to be our main focus. Instantly I start forcing a Hex, and then the Druid pops his incarnation of tree form or whatever, so I go ahead and cancel it because you cannot polymorph into that. And here I start pressuring the Hunter. He's trying to pull me back, but I don't want to follow that. And I see the Dev getting a huge amount of damage on the Ret, so I pull back, launch my double tap lightning bolt at him, and we get bubble there. Here the Paladin gets frozen, so the Evoker does the great thing and rescues me. And here I saw the Druid push in, so I wanted to make sure I could get there and stop the clone. And the Paladin gets a really nice rep. I was going for a Hex. Here I go for another cast, but I kind of cancel it because both the melee are on me, and the Dev gets a nice sleep there, so we do get quite a lot out of this. Now, their main focus is going to be freeze trap our healer and then put a lot of damage out, right? Because that's going to be the primary goal of any Hunter comp, and the Dev is doing a great job pulling the Paladin into a really bad spot. As you can see, I charged in and knocked him, so that way the healer still wasn't in range. So I thought the druid was going for a clone on me, so I tried to LOS, but I should have just probably kicked it. But here we get turtle, which was huge, and I get a nice hex on the druid. Now I know we don't have a huge amount of pressure here, but we do. It is still useful to put the druid just a little bit behind, and just make him maybe use iron bark or something, right? NS, for instance. Huge value if we get anything out of him. And here we keep pushing, we keep pushing. You'll see here in a second, the dev gets a nice sleep. And here I go for the lasso. It was unfortunate I overlapped with Rep, and then he uses his remove stun, and I was able to knock him, just giving us that extra second to get him out of there, right? Take out the Ret Paladin. So if I hadn't lassoed, we probably would have taken out the Paladin a bit faster, but you know, it's kind of spur of the moment and you're going to overlap a few things. So I should have watched my Paladin's cast bar, making sure of what he was casting. But it all worked out in the end, thankfully. So you can see I'm constantly switching talents. I could run Grounding Totem into the Hunter, but I just find that I can't quite react sometimes to the Frost Trap. So I know for instance that he's going to want to um, harpoon trap, right? Because that's the ideal setup for getting a trap. But I find I global myself or I'm not able to catch it. So here I see full sacrifice go onto the paladin. Full sacrifices the dev, so I just start pumping him. Now I did make a mistake there, knocking the paladin into our druid, but it was fortunate that he was able to get out of the stun with the Ret Paladin. So here they're pumping a lot of damage into me, so I kind of just stand back for a second. I see the hunter going in for the trap, so I just try and sit on top of the druid and I eat the trap for him. Go ahead and trinket out of that and start pumping the hunter once again, because that's what I want to do. I see the dev walking towards our druid, so I'm like, okay, I gotta make sure I am on top of this guy and don't let him get the sleep off, right? Because we want to prevent as much CC as possible. So you'll see here in a second, we start getting some pressure. He goes in for the sleep. I go for another kick, right? And then harpoon, I drop the grounding, but I think I may have dropped it a bit earlier. At one point I did catch one, but I wasn't too sure on that. I get a nice hex off here. He gets decursed, I think, or he trinketed. I think it was a decurse from the Devastation Evoker. So here, the dev gets cloned, so I take that from the druid as, okay, start hitting the hunter, focus more on the hunter, don't worry about the dev. He had sacrifice, so we'll just leave him out of that. So here the paladin's going for a bit of damage, or bit of CC, right? So I go ahead and lasso the dev. Our druid had frost trap, so I just want to stop damage, right? I want to let damage stall, so that way our druid has time to get out of the frost trap and we can get back on track without losing too much. So here I see bop. I go ahead and purge it out. The paladin's going for cast, so I'm kind of watching for that, but also being ready to kick any CC. Here I was able to ground the trap, as you can see, so I had the reaction time for that, thankfully. The paladin gets a nice double blind here, and I follow up with a hex. There's the hunter's turtle. The dev goes for the dragon breath to try and stop us. He gets a nice hodge. I knock the paladin, just trying to, you know, stagger him a little bit, right? Prevent him from casting. Get the kick off. He does a feign death, which kind of got me. I was like, oh crap, he's actually dead, but no. Then I use Lasso to stop the paladin from healing. And it's just like, we had so much going, and it was just a bit unfortunate that we weren't able to. I see the druid pop trank, so I backed up a little bit so that way I can get healed. The paladin has bubble, so I wasn't too worried about that. I had nature kick, so I couldn't quite tremor, but the paladin was able to finish off the hunter, thankfully. Because it was getting real dicey there. We didn't have too much left. So here we're fighting the Ret survival. As you can see, I'm switching my bloodlust macro every time. If you're wondering why I'm running shamanism, it's honestly just a preference now. I just find it very helpful in all senses. I don't know. It just seems to be more valuable to me. I'm not sure why, but lately it's just been my preferred talent choice to, you know, pump damage, and a lot of classes scale really well with haste. especially in this season. So it definitely has a huge benefit. There's the wings. I don't trade out my wall just yet because I see that they're not quite attacking me. They want the Dev Evoker. The hunter jumps in, goes for the trap, and I start wailing on him, right? The Paladin walks up, but doesn't do anything. I get a bit low, but I'm also like spamming heals on myself, right? Because I have Stormweaver, which is a huge thing. I saw the denounce going. I go ahead and kick it. The Druid gets a nice clone on him, forcing Trinket, which was pretty huge. Nice early Trinket from the Paladin. Gets a second clone, so I go in for the Hex, get a full Hex on him. We start pumping this Ret Paladin because he doesn't have too much left. Get a lot of damage, and there's the bubble. A nice sleep follow-up from the Evoker. I get a nice kick there, as you can see, and we're putting so much pressure on these guys right now, so much pressure. He gets a really good Searing Glare there, stopping me from getting a huge amount of damage. I thought I had Hex again, so I went for the Hex once more, but I didn't. There we get Turtle and Lay on Hands, so we get a huge amount from that. That was a big value right there. But there the Druid gets, he gets trapped. So I'm like, okay, we got to play a little bit safe. So, but then he falls out. So I go ahead and push in a little bit. Unfortunately, we both get hodged. So he wasn't able to dispel or anything, get that stun off. But we're all stacked up here, right? So we're taking a lot of cleave damage. There's his spell warding, whatever, Paladin spell bop. Very annoying for us to deal with. You can't purge it or anything. So I go ahead and burrow here just to kind of get damage off of me. I see the Druid gets CC'd, right? So any damage stop, and the Hunter's backing off, trying to at least. But I just switched to the Paladin because he wants to stay here. I'm just gonna pump whatever I can touch, right? No point in chasing after the Hunter if I can't catch him. There, the sleep into an instant bubble, that was great. So that means the next CC we land on the Paladin, he has to Trinket, right? So here you can see I go for the Hex, back off, there's the Hex. He's going to have to force a Trinket. And here I get hodged. I knock them both away. We're lining up a huge amount of damage. I missed kick on the Paladin. I think may have double kicked or I just suck, I'm not sure. But we get a huge amount of damage. The Paladin pushes in to try and get a hodge, it looked like. I'm not quite sure why, but we're able to just keep pumping this Ret Paladin. Is still going after him, and he just falls over. So there wasn't, the biggest thing there was just watching for those traps, right, and stopping damage, because when you're fighting a hunter, their big win condition on any team is going to be getting a trap off and then pushing a huge amount of damage. If you can stop one of the people or one of the enemy DPS from doing damage with a lasso or even a Hex, for instance, you're gonna have an easy time getting through that trap duration, right? You stop half of the damage and you're good. Typically, you would choose the more threatening. In that case, it was the Ret Paladin. No offense to survival hunters, but they tend to be more threatening in quick burst situations. So here, I go ahead and lust. I'm just pumping all this damage into the Ret Paladin. I see the Dev trying to pull back. They're gonna go for a CC here. I go ahead and hex the Dev because the Druid was in CC. And here I just start hitting the Holy Paladin. He's in my way, so I just went ahead and whacked him. Trying to get a bit of damage out on somebody, right? I could go after the Dev Evoker, but they're very mobile. Here I see a Sleepwalk, and I get it off, fortunately, with Tremor before they had any form of CC for me. I saw the Ret going for a Searing Glare, so I go ahead and sidestep that. And yes, you can sidestep Searing Glare as long as you time it correctly, in a sense. So here I take the clone on the Ret Paladin as you guys need to switch to the Dev. I'm like, okay, I'm on it. But he starts pushing in, trying to pull me around a corner, which scares me because I don't want to get pulled behind a corner with double Paladin, right? Because that's a Hodge waiting for me to get blasted by. Now I have nothing for the Paladin, but here he missed his Searing Glare somehow on me. I'm not sure how that happened. I also missed a kick on him. The Paladin also goes for a rep, but fortunately the Druid was able to trank it, not getting caught in that. I go ahead and pull back just a little bit, right? I don't want this Dev Evoker all over me. I go for a Healing Surge cast. I'm trying to spend as much Maelstrom as I can so I can get that Stormweaver proc and heal myself. I get back to full health, so I'm like, okay, let's go after them. Start pushing in, pushing and pushing. We're getting a triple target cleave here, which is huge. I get a huge proc, right? Hot hands proc here, so I'm pumping into this, sending a lot of damage into this but dev, whatever you want to call it, dragon. But I have no defensives, right? I have nothing left. I go ahead and Bloodlust. We start pushing once again. I see the druid slept, but I waited too long, and there was no point in tremoring after that. So I just waited. There's the bop, so I purge it. We start pumping into this freaking Ret Paladin once again. Go for the Hex as I back off, right? If you back off from melee, it forces them either back. There was no decurse available, I guess. The Hunter gets a nice follow-up trap, and we're able to take out the Ret Paladin. Very, very nice play by the Hunter, following up on that Hex. Very unfortunate for the enemy team, but you know what? We take those wins, right? We take those wins. So here's a tough matchup for us. We got Survival and Dev. Ret Enhance, not the best comp, but you know what? We try our best. So our main focus, once again, we're going to be going after the Dev Evoker, right? But also, don't want to leave the Hunter hanging because he is going to take a lot of damage, and they are fairly squishy. So here, I saw the Evoker every time he opened with Landslide, so I just try and sidestep it. That way we don't have to waste any dispels or anything like that. So the Dev dashes away with whatever he has. He also has Iron Bark, so I'm going to send my damage into the Hunter, right? And then I see the Druid taking quite a bit of damage, so I try and switch a little bit. There the Hunter goes for the trap. I go ahead and lasso the Hunter off of Narnia, and I see the clone coming in, so I go ahead and stop that. I don't want any CC followed up onto my healer, because that's where trouble lies, right? Your healer gets CC'd, you have no way of keeping your team alive. Now, here's a weird part. I think the Ret Pally wanted to go for the Druid. I didn't quite want to do that because druids are very slippery and can sustain themselves pretty well, in my opinion, with bear form and stuff like that. So there, I saw the Ret Pally get slept, so I go ahead and tremor that. Probably not the best option, but I took what I could get. I'm trying to sit on top of our Paladin, just trying to prevent him from getting any form of CC, right? I don't want him trapped or anything like that. I want him to be able to heal me, right? The Hunter goes back in. Looks like he's going to get another trap off. Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't. Interesting. I guess the Druid pushed in and tried cloning, but I'm sitting here 2v1, which kind of sucked, taking a lot of damage, just trying to prevent anything from happening, trying to push in as much damage as possible. The Druid's making a good push on, but if I leave these two, then the Druid's going to have, you know, free reign healing himself later, and these two can just CC us while they keep him alive. So here, the Paladin gets CC'd, but I didn't have Tremor. It's a bit unfortunate. So I couldn't break him out. I broke out the Ret Pally. Here we get a quick push on the Druid, but it just wasn't enough, and we fall over. Bit unfortunate, but that was the game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Laters!